I'm Mike Esneault, and welcome to the Arts Council of Greater Baton Rouge's AC23 Plus Artist Legacy Series podcast. This is a series where we talk to artists who are doing amazing things in the areas of the arts, including performance, education, production, as well as arts advocacy. We record this series in the Virginia and John Nolan Black Box Studio, as well as in the Jan and Bill Grimes recording studio here at the Carrie Rouge Community Arts Center. Be sure to visit artsbr.org for more information on all the great things we are doing here at the Arts Council of Greater Baton Rouge. Hope you enjoyed the podcast series, and thanks for tuning in.
Every time it rains, pennies from heaven. Don't you know each cloud contains pennies from heaven? You'll find your fortune falling all over town. Just make sure your umbrella is upside down and trade it for a bag or jug of sunshine and flowers. If you want the things you love, you must have showers, and when you hear it thunder, don't run under a tree. There'll be pennies from heaven for you and me. Oh yes, every time it rains, pennies from heaven. Don't you know each cloud contains pennies from heaven? You'll find your fortune falling all over town. Just make sure your umbrella is upside down and trade it for a bag or jug of sunshine and flowers. If you want the things you love, you must have showers, and when you hear it thunder, don't run under a tree. There'll be pennies from heaven. Yes, pennies from heaven. Pennies from heaven for you and me.
Yeah.
Yeah, bruh.
John Gray.
Uh-huh.
Man, thank you for being here.
I said, of course.
I'd like to welcome all of our AC23 Artist Legacy Series watchers and viewers, that's a mouthful, to this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really, really glad to have my buddy John Gray here.
Yes, indeed.
And we're going to talk about a lot of cool things. And, you know, one of the goals of this podcast is to It's an artist legacy series. So we're trying to record and let artists in this area tell their stories, their involvement in the arts, and how art has affected them, how they use the arts to make a living, but also how to carry it on, how to pass it on to the next generation. And John fits perfectly into that because he's a homeboy. So tell me, you educate me a little bit, John. So where are you originally from? Are you from Baton Rouge originally?
I'm originally from Baton Rouge, born and raised. Went to Wedgwood Elementary, and I went to McKinley Middle School and McKinley High School. So I'm definitely a homeboy, right here, born and raised.
Sweet, man.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
Well, so when did music kind of come in?
Well, I mean, I can go back and the children's choir at the church and strings in 4th and 5th grade and what have you. But I think it was more so for me in middle school over at McKinley. Mr. Harrelson was the beginning band teacher over there, and it was a time early '90s. Kenny G was hot. Yeah. Saxophone playing was really big, but also at the same time. When Marcellus was hot too.
Yeah.
and I really wanted to play the trumpet. And my old man likes to tell this story because he really was into saxophone playing, Kurt Whalum and all the other cats that were rolling. And he wanted me to play saxophone. But I came home and I was like, Dad, I want to play trumpet. And to add on to it, Mr. Harrelson said, he took a look at my chops and said, man, you need to be a tuba player. I'm like, oh, I'm getting it from all angles, man. I want this trumpet. Right. So anyway, so I got into dealing with playing trumpet then. And from then on, it's just been it's been a love and it's been an interest and it really was a moment in time coming up. And so I'm really glad to be out here because we go 100 miles an hour out here gigging and teaching and hustling and doing our thing. And it's not, it's only those times we actually kind of sit and just kind of reflect and reminisce. We're like, oh, man, we did. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff to talk about. So I'm excited to get into even more of this with you.
Yeah, it's funny when everybody I've talked to, whether it's through this or just in general, you forget, you go down this path, and this leads to that, and this leads to that, and all of a sudden you've done all these different things, and then you kind of forget, what were those things that that nudged you in that direction, or sometimes what some people have. I know for me, just certain influences have had a big deal, whether it's a personal influence or just hell, like Wynton Marsalis, just listen to someone like that, and it kind of changes the way you might view music or think about music.
Well, no doubt about it. The imagery of various musicians and different key figures, that keep you inspired and interested and intrigued. It's definitely an important part of our experience and upbringing. But I gotta deal with landing on one particular person, and that's Frank Williams. Oh yeah, my high school band director. Yeah. And I've said this in small circles, but for me to be able to say this down on tape to where it could be archived,
shout it out.
Probably the single most influential person in my musical upbringing. You don't even remember this, but he actually was the one who gave my mother your phone number, gave my mother your number. And you gave me my first music theory lesson.
I remember us doing some theory way back.
Yes. Yeah. You gave me my first theory lesson.
That was because of Frank.
That was because of Frank. Frank passed along your info. Frank brought me and several of my classmates up to Southern during my junior and senior year to play in the jazz ensemble with Mr. Bat. Oh, yeah. And that was my first introduction to Mr. Bat. And this was at a time in which cats like Wessel Anderson was coming down to play in the band. Fred Jackson was in the band.
Yeah, I remember Fred.
Mark Gully was bouncing from upright bass to trombone.
Yeah, he played
drums.
all of them.
Yeah, man. Who else? Oh my goodness.
Well, Roland was around.
Roland was coming back around, and Edwin Livingston. Edwin Livingston was coming around.
Hey, was Vashon Johnson around that time too? Do you remember him?
Vashon.
Vashon. he was.
Bashan Johnson.
I can't remember I forget what chapters that was, but he would have been around when Wes was kind of coming back.
Yeah, because it was a lot of cats. That is for a senior and junior, because junior was in school at the time, and his old man was playing. We was in the horn section.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot of guys coming around.
Yeah.
That's when I first met Ernest Jackson.
Oh.
And I mean, it was just, and that was high school. That was coming up in
You're not even
school.
college yet.
I'm not even in school yet. And so from there, and I mean, I got so many, stories of how Frank has turned me on to so many different folks, and even the style of music that I would come to really, really enjoying, this whole traditional jazz thing.
Yeah.
He gave my number to Louis Ford, and Louis Ford needed a trumpet player to come out with him on the road and whatnot. And I remember Louis Ford was like, some trad? I'm like, oh yeah, Bourbon Street, Saints, I'm good. And man,
then you learn how deep that book is.
I learned all this, but man, look, I would be. It's fun to laugh at it now, but like, I would be on these gigs with a fake book on the stand. The only person with music on the stand, and trying to learn these heads, transposing, because they just had the book in C. Lewis would play the head down the first time, and then he'd expect me to jump in and take the head over the second time. And man, I just remember like being in my hotel room, and he sent out a list of tunes that we're gonna do next, and just cramming, studying this stuff. But man, all of those experiences, and Frank was on these gigs too. I mean, they would, all put in motion by Frank Wish. All the cats coming around. When I was a freshman up at McKinley, I remember we did a production of The Wiz. Yeah. And I mean, I didn't know who these cats were at the time, but like Don Lewis came to play drums with a high school group with the pit band. Don Lewis on drums. One of these cats who was bad bass player up at Southern. He came to play, and Anthony Jackson, Al. Yeah, man. Al came playing saxophone, and so all these guys, man, I would end up meeting them all through, Frank, my high school, experience, which is what, has left the impression as far as the influence that an educator can end up having. Right. And not only, teaching the ABCs of music and all of those things, but being, leading you into certain situations and environments, that can ultimately end up, having a big impression on your later life, which has happened there. So formally, thank you, Frank. I got much more to say about him and the experiences that he's afforded me, though.
It's interesting, like, so many people I've talked to, and I include myself in it, like, with the musicians especially, somewhere along the line, it's 99% of the time, it's a band director. That just like, whatever he says, whatever he does resonates to where, like, it's a life-changing thing, And the cool thing about, being educated, and then if you're in it long enough and you start like, I know you taught for quite a few years, you still teach, where it comes full circle. And then you have students who, like, just like I'm sure you are with Frank, you have students you've taught that it's beyond just knowledge of music. It's a relationship. It's a camaraderie. It's, your colleagues at that point. But to have played a part in that, their development, that's a special thing.
No doubt about it. I'll tell you this quick story right quick. Frank was real cool cat, laid back cat.
I've never seen Frank get upset.
Yeah,
I've never seen.
Wait for this.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, I'm like, I've gone up to Southern with Frank. He introduced me to these cats, and I've been playing alongside them and whatnot. I think I might have been like maybe a senior in high school or something like that. And I thought that, and I got very casual in the band room one day. And I said, I just remember me saying, "Hey, Frank." And I called him by his first name. And I remember he cut me a look that cut so deep. It was like one of them, hold on, bro. I think I probably called Frank Mr. Williams probably until I got into my 30s, man.
Right. It's a rite of passage kind of thing.
Yeah, man. But you know, man, it's been a lot of stories. It's so many stories. Oh, and even going into my days up at Southern, me and Quamon were Quamon was a classmate of mine, of course, you know, and we were actually roommates.
Okay.
We lived right there off Tiger Manor or whatnot off State Street, you know, for a couple of years, and man, we just reminiscing on so many stories.
Yeah.
So many stories, and you know, just of our time and all of the guys who were up there with us at the time. And
Well, Maurice was probably part of that too.
Oh
huh?
yeah, oh yeah. So '99 was the year that fall '99 was when Quamon came down, and I remember after maybe that first semester or that first year, the next year, maybe it was the next year or the next semester, Maurice had came down. They all, of course, wanted to study with Mr. Bat.
Right.
And man, those were some times. It was the first time I ever booked a gig at Snug, was booking Maurice and Quamon. It was, they called themselves MQ 2020.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember George was the owner and was running things down
George
over at Snug, and Mr. Bat just like gave the nod, like, take care of this cat. And like he gave me the dates, you know, and we were able to hook that on up. And same thing happened, you know, when it came down to booking for Jazz Fest. Yeah. And they did their thing. And the back and forth going back and forth from Baton Rouge to New Orleans, man, it was like a whole vibe because, you know, of course, M's Cafe was still rolling
on 3rd
around
Street
this time. Yeah. And you know, going down to New Orleans and the Funky Butt and Donna's Bar and Grill and you know all these places,
spots.
the Pauline Connection and Snug and all these places, man, and so many younger cats around our age that were playing. Playing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh man, and I used to go down there with Quamon and Maurice because you know I had the car or whatnot. And man, cats would be like, "Oh man, you play trumpet? You got your horn?" I'd be like, "Nope." In my mind, I'm like, "All that horn y'all playing, man, I ain't about to no, sir. I sure don't, man. I left it back at home." Man, it was some good times though. So.
That was a fun time. I remember, what was that spot on? Was it St. Peter's? Delphio used to play there all the time. Was it Crescent City Brew House? I don't know. Yeah, I think it may have been. And I would go then, I'd listen to that. Back then, Brian Blade was kind of in and out, because Brian and I are about the same age.
Oh, dig it. Okay.
And I would be checking out, sometimes sitting with like Victor Atkins be playing, Delphio, Peter Martin, he was around.
Yeah, Peter Martin, yeah.
But just that whole, I think of it as like a 20-year period where it's like, because Winton was coming out in the late 80s and everybody was so inspired. Like really serious about music.
Yeah, and I think that like our generation ended up like picking up on that momentum, and they were, you know, just there was so much music happening, and all the guys who I ended up meeting and throughout the way, you know, along the way, were very much influenced by those young lions and that whole movement of the music making this, you know, re-emerging, you know, and cats really, you know, who were digging in with the music very seriously and whatnot, and then just having fun and trying to figure out like, well, how we gonna actually make this into a viable thing for us to be,
which ain't easy,
be able to, you know, live off of, you know, and we just playing it all by ear, you know what I mean?
Right. But what was beautiful about that, when I really think about it, is it wasn't, I don't remember it ever being about, you know, I want to get in the music business. It was about dealing with the music and just being serious about the music, and then let that take it where it goes. Well, you know,
no doubt. And I do remember quite a many conversations, late night conversations that we would have about the actual business. Of course, you know, cats like Quamon, Maurice, Del Reeves.
I remember Daryl. Yeah.
All these cats, you know what I mean? You know, they were the intensity around the music was definitely there. I was like, man, y'all got it. I was really interested in the business, but it really became a topic of discussion amongst us because we were like now what is going on with the record business? Because so many changes were happening
Yeah, that was
around
a
that
kind of a
late
pivotal
90s,
time.
2000 time. Yeah, man. You know, the idealized, record company and getting signed, that whole idea was something that was really starting to, it was showing us some cracks,
Yeah.
around that time. And we recognized even then, it was like, man, we ain't got to wait for nobody. And I remember after that first year, Quamon being here, he went back home to Dallas and recorded his first record and did it all on his own. And we came back and we were like, yeah, we can end up doing whatever we end up,
Right.
we don't have to wait for nobody to sign us or looking for, for somebody to book us or doing this.
Right.
And we were coming up with shows, ideas to do shows and whatnot, playing at Chelsea's and even the Varsity and other places and whatnot, just looking for performance opportunities, even doing stuff on campus. We used to have like Valentine's night, where we just jam and whatnot and have different little bands. And we were really figuring things out about how to be able to, not, how to really be able to make this music, lead towards a sustainable career, which is the part that you really don't get. On the college scene, there's only so much time, and most of the time is dedicated towards dealing with the music.
Right.
But dealing with making it sustainable and whatnot was some of the things that we were moonlighting about and talking, and getting to lots of conversations about,
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons I was looking forward to having you on here, because a topic I like to touch on, especially if people who are watching this are maybe up-and-coming musicians, and they're, maybe on that high school level, maybe the college level, but they're thinking about those things like, yeah, this is great, but how am I going to make this work?
Yeah.
And I know, we both know, I mean, just being out there, being in the, quote, real world, it has so much to do about the freelance, the connecting, your reputation has so much to do with it, and that one thing leads to another. And there's no, the people that I've seen do really well, they're the ones who are able to kind of make their own construct, like they make it happen.
Yeah.
So I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Like,
well, I mean, I go back to like how I've connected the dots in a way to where I look at it leading back to Alvin Baptiste's teaching methodology. Okay, very unstructured.
Yep.
Loose structure, if you want to say. We took me and Quamon took economics of the music business with Mr. Bat, right? And you think about that title, economics of the music business. It comes with a book and whatever. No, it didn't come with no book or nothing. We would get together and talk about the economics of the music business and how this and that works, contracts, loose conversation. But it was largely him saying, yeah, bro, go figure this out.
Right.
And go check out some record companies and da-da-da-da-da. And you say, and then come back and let's talk about it. It was wide open like that. So like I would go down to Sounds of New Orleans, Louisiana Red Hot Records, and they would play. I was just literally going, this is being able to look this stuff up online and whatnot.
Right.
I just go knocking on the door. Hey, how you doing? My name is so-and-so. I'm from Baton Rouge. I was wondering if you might have a minute to talk to me about how you run your, just straight up cold calling like that.
Right.
And the reason why I bring it back to his methodology is because it was the same way that I would have to, that he taught us how to really make these connections for ourselves with the information that's out there. It's the same way that we would end up ultimately having to come to make some connections of how to actually formalize, make a career out of this thing.
Right.
It's like you got to figure it out.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that we would do. And I guess if I had to think about it, it's like there's so many opportunities all around, but you got to stop to actually check stuff out. And if you're looking, you're like, man, I really want to do some shows, but nobody's hiring any jazz bands. Okay, how can you make a show happen for yourself?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or can you do something different, that will go on, bring you an audience? I figured this. I say, Mr. Bat wasn't above playing for the crowd and for, I'm not about to be above it either, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And anybody who's like, takes it, it's like, oh man, I just deal with the music. I'm all about the music. I'm like, okay. Like, but sometimes the music ain't paying enough to be able to pay this
that's
AT&T,
reality. That's
know?
reality.
And so you got to be open and knowing how to deal with, different opportunities that might arise where you can take advantage. And I don't mean to, talk around it, but there are opportunities, and sometimes you got to take a chance on creating opportunities for yourself. I remember I booked Omar and Maurice to play at Churchill's one time.
Yeah.
Just them two.
Duo.
A duo. And they went like the entire evening just back and forth. One person playing bass line, the other one solo, the other plays bass, and doing that. And it's like, bam, they made the gig. We did we did shows over at Chelsea's and the Varsity and other places around where we would have like a theme. It's one series that we call Soul Fusion, where it would be, we feature the poetry and spoken word community was real big around that time too. And so we get spoken word artists to come in and do a feature, and we have musicians do a feature, and really pulling for the younger crowd, and you know what I mean. It's just coming up with ideas to be able to, how can I make it happen? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And then eventually, it was even one time that at one point, I remember me and Mike Foss were like, man, we need some gigs. It's Christmas time. Presents got to get bought and whatnot. I don't know what we go. We made flyers, and I remember putting them around Northgate at LSU, like duo for hire. You want this for your Christmas party? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you do what you got to do, and you get on out there. And so, this is a hustle business.
Absolutely.
And you got to know how to put yourself out there. And there's no clear path to it, and sometimes one opportunity might lead to something that'll
that you never expected.
That you never expect, that will end up leading to the trajectory of, damn, I never thought I'd be doing X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Like most of the things that I know I've done has not been because I've gone at it like that's what I'm about to do. It's been because certain opportunities opened up, and it's like, oh, okay, I might actually like this.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can end up running off on this and other stories.
But those are all really valid things, man. I mean, that's real life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I first started working in New Orleans, I would go down, I may have been 17 or so, and I started just doing some subbing for people, and then kind of just doing more gigs. But one of the things I really grew to admire about that overall scene down there is, in many cases, the musicians are so, because of what we're talking about, you have to do this kind of gig, this kind of gig, this kind of gig. I'd be on a gig, and throughout the night, you'd play Bourbon Street Parade, then you play some Earth, Wind, and Fire, then you might play an Ellis tune, and then, it's all over the map.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no, quote, jazz snob thing happening here. It's just, make the gig.
It's make the gig. Whatever the tunes that you need to do to make the gig, make the gig, man. Right. And it doesn't mean that there doesn't have to be any artistic integrity lost on it.
I think it's what you bring to that music.
That's
period.
right. That's right, man. And you have a good time. But man, we made lots of memories down here. Oh my goodness.
Let's play some music, man.
I got one story for you right after
Go
we
ahead.
play this.
Okay.
Right after we play this tune here, and I'll set this up by saying, like, getting into this trap music also, Quamon got me into this too, because he turned me on to Leroy Jones. He was the first person that turned me on to Leroy. And I remember we were going to New Orleans, and he was like, man, you hip to this cat? And I was like, oh, no. He'd say, hold on, fool, put this in.
I can hear him talking.
Man, he put it in, I was like, whoa, this cat. And between that, I was like, oh, bro, this cat Leroy. So at any rate, I'm going to do this. Let's go on the sunny side.
Where you at? 3 flats?
Let's do it in C.
Okay. All right.
Well, get your coat and get your hat. Leave your words right by that doorstep. Just direct your feet to the sunny side of that street. Can't you hear the pitter-pat? And that happy tune, it's in your step. Life can be so sweet, sunny side of the street. Yes, I used to walk in the shade with them blues on parade. Oh, but now I'm not afraid. Well, this rover cross over. If I never had a cent, still be rich as Rockefeller. Golden bricks and my feet on that sunny side of the street. Well, I used to walk in the shade with them blues on parade. Oh, but now I'm not afraid. Well, this rover cross over. If I never had a cent, still be rich as Mike Esneault. Golden bricks and my feet on the sunny, on the sunny side of the street.
Man, you have me confused with someone else.
Heard you making all this Arts Council money, man.
Yeah. Who you been talking to? I need to talk to them.
Yeah, man.
Oh, that was him.
Lord, today. So, man, it's again, you know, so many stories, man. Me and Kumar both reminded ourselves, Jazz Fest used to be the time, man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. All the cats would come back around, and it'd just be a vibe around the whole city, you know, down in New Orleans.
I got a story for you.
Man.
Check this out. So one time, I would play in Alvin Batista's Jazztronauts, right?
Yeah.
And it'd be, I guess around that time it'd be either Roland on bass, Roland Guerin, or sometimes it was, oh man, the bass played electric. Johnny Adams' son. You know what I'm talking about? Terrell. Terrell Griffin would be playing. Yeah. But we were playing. We played snug during Jazz Fest, right? Bat would always have a set, and I just remember so many times playing with him and never feeling like I was prepared. Like we'd practice all the time, and you get on the gig and you never play any of that music, right? So one night we're actually playing something, and I'm like, for once in my life, I'm feeling good about playing with Bat. It's packed. It's Jazz Fest, right? And in the middle of my solo, Bat comes up. He's like, "Oh, yeah, Michael. Listen, when you finish, man, why don't you get up and let George Duke come up to the stage?" And I looked down, and I didn't even know he was in the audience. He's staring right down. He's like, "Oh my!" And then he came up and cleaned me out.
Sounds about right, man.
Oh man.
Hey, man.
Yeah, yeah.
George, come on up here, man.
My favorite bad one is, yeah, man, you smell like you want to be by yourself.
Oh man, bro, it was so many good times, bro. So many good times. And I was me and Q were talking. And we were remembering we were down, we were riding around the city. It's like me, him, Maurice, and I think maybe Calvin Bill. Somebody was with us, and we had heard Roy Hargrove was playing over at the Parting Connection, and so we rolled over. But at the same, and this night there was a trumpet battle concert happening between Urban Mayfield and Kermit Ruffins over at the Parish.
Yeah.
And so we go over to the Parting Connection, and Maurice said, "Yeah, but I got to tell Roy that they battling." So, and I'm the driver. I'm along for the ride, man. And we go backstage, see Marlon back there, all the cats hanging there, man. And when Roy's over there, and Maurice telling Roy, I just remember saying, like, Roy was like, battling? Who's battling? And man, he told him, man. And so next thing you know, so we leave there and we go over to the Parish, right? And it's packed at the Parish, man. And so me, him, and Maurice get to the door, and we're like, yeah, man, we're trying to get on there. It's like, sorry, sold out for the night. Not letting anybody else in, fire marshal, whatever, And we were like, ah. And so we're about to head on back. I said, hold up, man. I'm these guys' manager, and they need to be on stage right now. They expect it, and blah, 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 blah. I just started just running my mouth, man. And the cat was like, man, just go on. And we ended up going there, and it was packed. Right. I mean, it was just like Wallow. I remember like Q and Maurice carrying their cases on top of their heads. And like we go into the, on stage, and it's like Roy has made it there this time, and all the cats in the band, and like they were just playing. I was telling you, I just remember them playing a blues in F for like an hour or so, man. Right. Cats switching out on drums, like keeping the stent, and just somebody else get behind the drum, cat passing off the bass and whatnot, and everybody soloing. Chad Gales was out there, Terrence Taplin was out there, and we were all of us were out there hanging. Yeah. And I remember because I didn't have, it was pre-camera phones and whatnot. I just had my Ericsson, and I left myself a voice message. I was like, "This is crazy, man! Everybody out there." I raised the phone up. Yeah. And I just remember we ended the night going to We Never Close, Jeans to get a po' boy. We all went out there, man. It was lots of memories, lots of nights like that, man. Coming up, and so makes you feel good. Just makes us realize, how much, is like a moment in time, like so many other cats who come through at their different times and whatnot, have so many stories, Yeah. Anyway, that's one of many.
Well, man, I mean, we both been blessed to have such a fertile growing up musically, so to speak, environment. So many great musicians, mentors. But you're out there doing it now. So like, I know you do some touring you go out with Delfio's band. Is that right?
Yeah. So I deal with road managing when we go out on the road, and so it's a lot of advancing. Like once a little late on. This afternoon, matter of fact, I got an advance call with some folks we got to play out in Utah, and so handling that business, herding around 14 to 16 cats on the road, and putting out fires left and right. There's no class for this kind of thing. You just learn. It's trial by fire, and so, but I kind of enjoy it, the pressure. It's, like I might get a couple hours of sleep on a nightly basis, if we're out on the road. But it's like that pressure, it's the adrenaline, anxiety, and everything else, like trying to make sure, everything's straight. And it's a bit of a rush. And once I get home, I crash, but man, it's fun as hell. I got to admit. And so, I do that type of thing. And I keep up with, the booking with the Mike Foster Project, and the Soul Jukebox, which is like another kind of cover band, fun band.
I heard y'all. It was downtown, maybe maybe it was around Christmas time. I forget what the occasion was.
Oh, probably the Festival of Lights.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It kind of it hammered home the what I've always thought. You know, I mean, I've always just admired musicians who cover so many bases. And when I heard that band, I mean, I knew y'all were gonna sound good, but then I was like, man. God,
it's like an all-star mix, man. We started. So I originally started that band. I gave it like this fancy name. This is years ago. I called the band Existential Audio. I don't know. Maybe I might taking a philosophy class or something. I was just like feeling myself, and I remember Cass was like, "Man, that's too hard to say, bro."
It's kind of a phonetics exercise.
I like Soul Jukebox. It was like, yeah, man, that fits our vibe. And so myself, Esco McCullum, Greg Darville,
I love Greg, man.
and Don Thomas, and it was at one point in time Tayron Lockett was with us, and now and Lawrence Hebert and Zero with the Bright Foster Project, and Dre Britton, and a lot of us. So it was like kind of like an all-star mix. Because this is not like I don't go out soliciting gigs with this band. People it's strictly word of mouth. Yeah. And when people call and they're like, "Yeah, I like that band," I'll call up the cats. "Hey, y'all not gigging with so and so? Come on, bro, let's go make this hit." Yeah. And we just come and pretty much. We pretty much just do it right on the spot. We had a long stint at La Burge when they first opened, where we were doing the Edge Bar like a couple of times a month, and that really allowed the band to really solidify.
Kind of brings it together.
Yeah. So now it's just like we can go like 6-7 months without playing with each other, and once I call the gig, it's like we pick up where we left off, and we just But that's a fun group, and a lot of the quartet stuff that I've been doing, lots of it's for private events and people. I really enjoy that group because I do a lot of the trash stuff with that group. Yeah. And I'm able to get into a lot of really obscure, trad tunes and whatnot that I picked up along the way. Yeah. And a lot of South Louisiana classics and whatnot that people really appreciate hearing. I really dig the music. People say it's old timey and this and that, but man, I have a ball singing them old tunes, Dinah and Avalon and China Boy and all these tunes and whatnot, man. I have a ball singing them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a rich book of music. I mean, all those tunes, and some of them just have great stories too.
Yeah, man. They're like little vignettes. You know what I mean? They tell stories. So
there's a great Alan Lomax, the historian, who he recorded Jelly Roll up at the Library of Congress, kind of I guess towards the end of Jelly Roll's life. But Alan knew, there's a lot of things about Jelly Roll, but you can't deny that he was one of the formative creators of that music.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
And a monster pianist. And it's a fascinating interview. I don't know if you ever heard it, but you got to go listen to it.
I've heard of the interview. I just never listened to it.
It's amazing because you hear him talk. If you come from that age, there's a certain vernacular you talk in that's just different.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
And of course he's New Orleans too, so he's got that ism about it. But he'll be talking he'll talk about King Porter Stomp and how he wrote that and where it came from, and Make Me a Pallet on the Floor and what that really means and all that stuff. But the amazing thing is, from what I read, Alan is giving him some whiskey doing the interview just to get him to talk more, and then he plays, and his playing gets. It was great to begin with, but it gets better and better and better the more more he's just taking in everything.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, he's playing like I think it's King Porter Stomp, and just the beginning, what's really the roots of stride piano. And he is just killing the piano. It's a fascinating recording, a document of he tells all these stories as you might imagine. So many piano players and musicians in New Orleans you never heard of. That didn't make the history books.
That's right. Yeah, man. Yeah. No, I dig that. Alan Lomax. Documenting these. You picking up in his footsteps with documenting all these stories and everything.
It's important. It's our history.
And it is. It is so. I found this out just by going back and being a student again up at LSU. Just how important it is for the research and the documentation to be done, to just preserve these types of stories, whether they be oral histories or written accounts and whatnot, and how important it is just to talk about this stuff, because I just think about like all of these situations where I've been like a fly on the wall, young cat around, because I used to go around with Mr. Bat a lot, just like as his gopher, like the clarinet he goes does, like the international clarinet, whatever, things or whatnot, and I just be selling his books or it's whatever, and I just be a little fresh green college kid, just sit back and you watch grown folks talking and whatnot, try not to say too much,
Right.
hey, how you doing, sir, and you just hear them trading stories and just like listening.
Right.
And so, everybody is not, privy to those types of conversations. So being able to have that kind of dialogue and getting those stories and whatnot is it's an important part of the whole archiving of the history, So, yeah, man.
Well, man, before I let you go, I want you to talk a little bit about, I know you're back. You said you're back in school. So you getting your doctorate right now?
I am working on the PhD slowly but surely.
Yeah.
I mean, as one can imagine, trying to raise 8-year-old and dealing with gigging and making a living and keeping bills paid.
Big shuffle, man.
Yeah, it's had this bumpy. It's been a little bit bumpy, but I've been enjoying being back in school.
Yeah.
I taught for roughly about 14 years, 11 of those years over at the Dunham School, and
I know those kids love you.
It was fun. It was a fun time. Going back to school and pursuing this particular degree has really made me understand more about. It's gotten me really into the craft of teaching and being an educator, understanding the theories associated behind certain methods, and me being able to identify how I was teaching and how I've been taught, and associating that with certain methods and whatnot, and becoming a little bit more fine-tuned in my approach and how I deal with teaching, how I deal with critiquing, future teachers. It's given me a lot of, giving me the vocabulary, and me being able to also, synthesize, bring that vocabulary to my own way of, talking and being able to relate it to folks and whatnot. Right. And so it has been, people always ask, like, oh, yes, you're going to get the PhD stuff where you can do that. I have no plans. Like, I just like being in school, learning. And it's just been fun. And now we're about to get into the not so fun part. That's the whole dissertation piece. Wow. But even that, it's all learning, it's all education, and I'm cool with the struggle. It's gonna be a struggle somewhere, so it might as well be something that I want to do. So,
and it's kind of full circle, really, when you think about it, because you're doing some teaching up at Southern, huh?
I am, and it's funny, man, because like the office, as soon as I started working on this PhD program, Southern hired me to come back and do some adjunct teaching, just working with the freshman trumpet players, kind of take the load off of my former trumpet instructor, Craig Heinzen. And it's funny because like when they said, hey, we got an office for you. The office that they gave me was the office that I used to take my lessons in when I was at Southern.
Right.
And I was like, oh man, this is
full
a
circle.
it's like a real full circle moment, And now with Roger being up there too,
Roger
Paulin, dealing with the jazz program. I'm there to assist and help in whatever way he can. So we both, just kind of tag team and just trying to do something to keep the legacy at least going right now, and put a little bit of life into broadening what the types of music that's offered up at Southern right now. So And, and it's cool. We're having a good time with it. We're learning a lot
Yeah.
as we go, and that's its own education. Sometimes you learn it by doing. So that's what we're doing right now. Is we're learning how to run a program by just running the program.
Yeah, it is. Over the years, of what I've learned is, if you're learning, that means you got to be keeping an open mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you keep a closed mind, chances are you're not learning a lot. You're just keeping your, your whatever. But
Yeah.
that tells me you guys are like keeping it wide open and trying to do the right thing.
Oh yeah, we have a good time with it too. It's like you gotta laugh and stuff. It's easy to get frustrated.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And the frustration comes, but we laugh and we have a good time, and we know that it's gonna be another story for us to tell later on. So it's all good.
Well, look, John, man, I appreciate you coming and doing this.
Oh yeah.
It's great to see you again, play some music, reminisce.
Yeah, man.
But I'm not going to let you leave without playing another tune.
Okay.
So what we're going to do?
Good old Baton Street, man. We'll go ahead
B flat?
into that. Yeah, old B flat.
I'm following you.
Now I take this from I played for a time. Me and Terrence Taplin played a while with Trumpeter Brass Band, and I take this I guess his way of doing it straight from the good old Prince, who played tenor saxophone player with Trumpeter, and so I dedicate this to that band too, because they really helped in teaching, and I learned so much from them about this music and whatnot too. So big shout out to the Trumpeter Brass Band too.
All right.
Now Basin Street, yes it is that street. All of the rich and the poor folks meet. Down in New Orleans, it's the land of dreams. You never know how nice it seems, or just how much it really means. But I'm glad to be, oh yes sirree, where welcome is free for you and me. We can lose all our Basin Street blues. Well, we got that Mardi Gras, we got oysters raw, some filet gumbo and catfish for all of y'all. Down in New Orleans, the home of red beans. You never know how nice it seems until you try my grandmother's collard greens. But I'm glad to be, yes sirree, hanging at the Arts Council, good old Mikey. We can lose all our Basin Street blues.
Play it, man.
Take us on out of here. Well, won't you like to come with me? Well, down that old Mississippi. Yes, we'll take a ride down to the land of dreams. Down that Mississippi on to New Orleans. Well, the band is there to meet us. Yes, we got old friends there to greet us. Yes, let's take a ride down to the land of dreams. Heaven on earth, they call it Baton Street. Yeah, you're right, Mike.
The Arts Council of Greater Baton Rouge would like to acknowledge our generous sponsors, the Shell Corporation, the National Endowment for the Arts, the Louisiana Office of Cultural Development, and the City of Baton Rouge.